Do I have sauce on my face? Hey guys, it's Rachel P, and today we're gonna make some super crispy, super thin crust cast iron pizza. What we're working with is some fresh mozzarella, some sliced garlic, Parmesan, some of my smoky harissa red sauce that you can find on my website, JoyFullFoods.com. And we have a little bit of honey mixed with a splash of water and some salt to brush on the crust later, and some pizza dough. You can buy fresh pizza dough from a lot of pizza places, but you can also find it at the grocery store if you don't feel like making your own. We're using about a half pound of dough today for a 12-inch cast iron skillet. You might want to use less if you're using a smaller pan. So let's get started. I'm gonna preheat this pan over like medium high heat. And we're gonna stretch out our pizza dough, which you need to be careful. You don't wanna do it too quickly because otherwise you're gonna stress out the gluten and it's gonna snap back and be tough and you won't be able to get your dough as thin as you like. So you wanna kind of just gently work your way around. You can use the back of your hands if you're worried that you're gonna be too rough with it, but I like to kind of just turn it as you let it gravity kind of do the work for you. You can hold it a little bit longer in some areas if it's not even. This is gonna be a rustic pizza. Don't worry about it being perfectly round. We're trying to get it to where it's see-through in some places. You'll know you're getting close when you start to see some parts where it's so thin you can almost see through it. You want everything to be as thin as you can get it without making any holes, but if you have a hole or two, it's okay. You can kind of pinch it together once it's in the pan. Remember that your dough is gonna puff up as it cooks, so you want it to be crazy thin because it's still gonna puff up a bit. It's almost like a pizza cracker. And you also want your dough to be wider than the pan. We're actually gonna push it up the sides to create kind of like a little pie crust. Once you've gotten your dough nice and thin, we're gonna lay it over our hot cast iron. And you're gonna have to move quickly, but you have a few seconds to kind of arrange it. If you wanna try to stretch it to fit some areas better, but any places where it is sticking, it doesn't fit, just push it up the sides of the pan. And that's gonna create really crispy edges. Be careful not to actually touch the pan though, because it's quite hot. So now we're gonna wait until we see bubbles forming on top of this. It's gonna happen pretty quickly if your pan is nice and hot. I've already seen some of them forming, but we're gonna give it another second. You can see some of those bubbles forming. And so now we're gonna add our sauce. And I like to add the Parmesan now and kind of almost mix it into the sauce. So you can do that if you like. And then some sliced garlic. It's not like a date pizza. Some slices of mozzarella. And the last thing is we're gonna brush some of that honey on the crust. And this is gonna make it sweet and salty, and it's also gonna help it brown and get nice and golden since we're not leaving it in the oven very long. If you wanna add things like meat or roasted vegetables that take a little bit longer to cook, you're gonna wanna make those ahead of time because we're only putting this in the oven for about 5 minutes, so it's not gonna have time to cook those things. So if you wanna add something like pepperoni, you'll probably be okay, but any other meat, cook it ahead of time. I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna put it in the oven for about 5 minutes on broil on the top shelf. It turns out my parents' oven is much stronger than mine, so it only took 3 minutes. So here's how we're gonna take it out. You're gonna want some tongs and a spatula. And you're just gonna get underneath and transfer it over to a cutting board. If you let this cool for like a minute or two, it will continue to get crunchier. So we're gonna wait a minute. So now it's been about 5 minutes. If your crust still isn't as crispy as you want it to be on bottom, but you don't want to burn it in the oven, you can put it back in your cast iron on the stove for a little bit until it gets as crispy as you want it. Now we're gonna cut our pizza. So now we have our super crispy, super thin crust pizza. I'm gonna go enjoy mine, and I hope you enjoy yours too. Bye. For more tips and recipes, check out my website, JoyFullFoods.com. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram, and click right now to subscribe for more videos. That's good. Ta-da.